John Bolton, and I want to kind of do something different because I think a lot of people have covered his explosive claims that the president allegedly endorsed concentration camps, which sounds, I mean, that's a pretty explosive claim. So I'll let other people debate those things, and just sort of, it seems like in a sane world that the conservatives would be against him, the Trump supporters would be against him, and the Biden supporters would be for him being Bolton. But what we've actually seen is that everybody hates Bolton. He got up and just everybody's hurling tomatoes, depending on it doesn't matter whether they're left, right, or center. So I just kind of wanted to talk about the meltdown. One particular person in particular, Sean Davis of the Federalist, has lost his freaking mind. I mean, in general, that's a news commentary site that has completely gone downhill. They've lost all objectivity. Gosh, I mean, there's so much here. I don't even know where to start. This is somebody who hated Trump. He called him a grifter. He said grifters going to grift, and scammers going to scam. He accused the president back in 2015 and 2016 of stealing money from veterans, something that I don't think was ever, I don't think that allegation was ever verified, ever validated. I think it was just one of those nasty stories that comes out during campaign season. He said that he was headed towards a brokered convention when it was obvious that he was the nominee. Called him a demagogue, accused him of saying, to be blunt, they were not great buildings. Donald Trump 7 days after 9/11, which again, that doesn't, I mean, if that's true, I don't know. It doesn't seem, it's a really nasty accusation to make. Let me put it that way. But then he's completely changed his tune. He's been completely pro-Trump since the nomination, essentially. And, so let's see what they say today. Oh gosh, again, there's just too much here. Which quote do you start with? The Federalist loves Trump. They loved John Bolton back in 2019, June of last year. They said liberals are trying to goad Trump into firing his national security advisor, John Bolton, just when his foreign policy is showing some success. He shouldn't give them the satisfaction, implying that the deep state was after John Bolton. Then they attacked Jennifer Rubin as flip-flopping on Bolton. If not Bolton himself, somebody like him would be the ideal in the number 2 spot. So she wanted Bolton to be either the president or the vice president, and then she turned against him once he became the president's national security advisor. So they ran an ad saying, "Oh, Jennifer Rubin is such a hypocrite." Then they said that. It's hard when he was appointed, they said it's hard to imagine a better choice. So they loved Bolton, absolutely loved him. And over the past couple of days, Sean Davis and Molly Hemingway have done nothing on Twitter but bash Bolton, call him a liar, say that he's greedy, say that he's just cashing in, that he's a traitor. All of these things, they've completely changed their tune. And they see no irony. They see no irony for saying that Jennifer Rubin flip-flopped on Bolton. But okay, that kind of makes sense. They're pro-Trump. They don't like that that Bolton turned on Trump. That kind of makes sense. I kind of, I get it, But what I don't get are the never-Trumpers. Jeffrey Toulis is a never-Trumper, writes at The Bulwark, says, Bolton sat on information vital to the fate of the United States, it seems, in order to enhance his own financial well-being. So he can't catch a break. Even people who hate the president hate him, say that he's cashing in. Nancy Pelosi said, he was so arrogant in terms of the House when we were engaged in the impeachment. So the Democrats hate him. Never-Trump Republicans hate him. Pro-Trump Republicans hate him. I mean, if anybody is the ultimate troll, it is John Bolton, and I think he's enjoying the attention. I mean, what is your sense on that?
Well, I think it's interesting. You brought up something that makes sense from a political standpoint, in that, we should give a little bit more context. I mean, John Bolton obviously is what most of us would term a neocon. He is a very hawkish individual.
Yes, he's very hawkish. Yeah.
He basically hasn't seen a war he doesn't like. That was the advice. In fact, actually, related to that, I have an article here that shows a little bit more consistency instead of the sort of more cynical nature that you were talking about. Like, I can see these neocons flipping on Bolton because they feel he betrayed the president. Okay, I understand that politically, but that ideology is pretty deficient. I think we both agree with that, right? Because these guys are still neocons. They still supported Bolton's policies. They're just upset that Bolton, quote unquote, betrayed the president, which I kind of think he did, to be honest with you. I think I think as a person, I think he's kind of deplorable. That's just my opinion. But when it comes to the ideology, these are some people I think we champion. Thomas Massie, that's my favorite congressman. Okay, I won't say that I'm unbiased here. He is my favorite congressman. And who is he complimenting? None other than my favorite senator, Rand Paul. And this is a tweet, and I shared this tweet on our Twitter. And Congressman Massie said, if, as John Bolton supposedly implies in his book, Rand Paul convinced Donald Trump not to make John Bolton his Secretary of State, then Rand Paul deserves the Nobel Peace Prize and a thank you from the President of the United States. And this actually goes into an article that talks about that supposedly one of the big reasons that John Bolton wasn't a Secretary of State was because of Rand Paul. But also, folks will remember the incident with Iran, where the Iranians bombed a U.S. base in Iraq, I believe. And there was a moment where John Bolton was advising the president to go ahead and basically do a very disproportionate bombing on Iran. And the president made the call that was too much loss of life, and he was not going to do it. And that was also touted apparently in the book, that he thought the president was so weak for doing that, for not killing all these innocent people. And the fact that he knew Rand Paul, or the president knew Rand Paul would very much oppose these actions, and that was one of the reasons that it didn't happen. So in terms of ideological consistency, Rand Paul has consistently said that Bolton was a terrible idea and that he never should have been in the administration to begin with.
On that issue, we've talked about Iran on the show before. That Radio Farda is the Iranian Voice of America affiliate. And we were wondering, because John Bolton left right before all of that so-called saber rattling happened with Iran, that really didn't lead to anything. And one of the news outlets that was suggesting that we might be going to war with Iran and implied that Trump was a warmonger and, said some really, strange things about the president. You and I talked about that why are they doing that? Is this a way to kind of psych out your opponent, to kind of, after Soleimani was killed, is this a way to say, back off, we're crazy, we might do anything? And, or is this like is Voice of America anti-Trump? Is it run by anti-Trump people, which is really odd because their only job is not to talk to Americans, it's to talk to foreign nationals. And here they are attacking the American president. It was very strange. And I don't know if you saw over the weekend, all those people were fired. The heads of Voice of America were fired.
Didn't you tweet that story on Twitter?
Yes, I did.
I did see that. I did see. I saw your tweet. It's interesting, but it also gets into it. Kind of also, it's a little different, but you also see that with NPR. NPR has very biased articles as well against the president, and quite frankly, on almost every issue.
Yeah, NPR, we're almost, just kind of numb to at this point. I don't know about you, but that's just what NPR is and what they have been for a very long time.
I'm sorry, did I lose the connection there for a little bit?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'm just saying, no, I'm kind of numb to what NPR is doing because they've been that way for so long that you sort of expect it. Voice of America, these people were Republican appointees. No indication that they were radical, never Trump types, and yet they turned on the president. And honestly, I'm not sorry that they're gone because that's not supposed to be a political job. It's supposed to be, they say politics ends at the water's edge. That wasn't their job to get involved in domestic politics like that. They went way off script. They're supposed to be enacting our foreign policy agenda to some extent, being soft power in the region to promote democracy and American ideals, not to weigh in on the president.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
So, yeah, that was really, really unfortunate. So I think to kind of sum this up, the John Bolton thing has made everybody insane. It's been an insane 3.5 years so far, and we can expect the next 4 months of campaigning to be really brutal, really intense. We saw just brutal ads over the weekend related to the Tulsa rally. People are talking about that, really ripping the president. We haven't even talked about that. There's just too much happening. We are in the 24-hour media spin cycle. I had a whole riff on how if Trump wins the election in November, it would be like the 2004 American League Championship Series. You remember when the Red Sox came back from a 3-0 deficit to beat the Yankees in 7 games? Are you a baseball fan?
I'm not a baseball fan, Pete.
Okay. Yeah. With the latest polls, if Trump is able to come back at this point, it would be a historic comeback. I think it's maybe it's good that for him that everybody is throwing tomatoes at John Bolton, because it means they're not throwing tomatoes at him this week. He's not the center of controversy. John Bolton is.